Every evening at exactly 6:30, I set the table. Old habits are stubborn things. They don't ask whether they're still needed. They just show up, like bills in the mail or aches in your knees. 4 plates. Always 4. White porcelain with a thin gold rim. Linda picked them out in 1998 on a rainy Tuesday because they were formal enough for guests, but not pretentious. I still remember the receipt. $184.72 at Macy's. Paid in cash because she didn't trust credit cards. Linda is gone now. 7 years this past February. The plate stayed. By 6:35, I hear the garage door open. A low mechanical groan, followed by the polite hum of a Lexus engine cooling down. My son, Daniel, always parked straight, exactly centered. He learned that from me. One of the few things he kept. At 6:37, footsteps. 2 sets. His and Melissa's, his wife. Her heels click against the hardwood like a metronome. Precise. Controlled. Expensive. At 6:40, they enter the kitchen. And at 6:41, without fail, Melissa looks at the table and sighs. "Frank," she says, drawing out my name like it's something she found under the couch. "We talked about this." I stand by the stove, wooden spoon in hand, stirring the soup. Chicken broth, carrots, a bit of celery. Nothing fancy. My doctor says I should eat lighter dinners. "I know," I reply, not turning around. "Just setting it out of habit." "Habit," she repeats, exchanging a glance with Daniel. That glance, quick, silent, full of meaning I wasn't meant to understand. But old men notice things. "We have little else to do. There's no need for you to set the table anymore," Daniel adds, loosening his tie. "Navy blue. Probably $120, maybe more. We usually eat later." Later. That word has stretched over the past year. First, it meant 7:00 instead of 6:30. Then 7:30. Now it means something else entirely. "I made enough for everyone," I say. "It'll get cold." Melissa walks over, lifts the lid off the pot, peers inside like a health inspector. "Too much salt," she mutters. "You know, Daniel's watching his blood pressure." Daniel nods, though he hasn't tasted it. "I'll order something," she says, already reaching for her phone. "Sweet green, maybe. Or that new type place on Maple. They have quinoa options." Quinoa. I remember when Daniel used to eat macaroni straight from the pot, standing barefoot in this very kitchen, sauce on his cheeks. Back when food was food and not a statement. I turn off the stove. "Suit yourselves." They don't argue. They never do. That would require acknowledging me as an equal participant in the conversation. Instead, Melissa opens the cabinet, takes down 2 plates, the same set, of course, and places them on the counter. 2 plates, not 4. She doesn't remove the others. That would be impolite. She simply ignores them. A more refined cruelty. By 6:55, their food arrives. Delivery driver. Young kid, maybe 19. He glances at me when I open the door, then passes me into the house. "Nice place," he says. "Thank you," I reply. I almost add I paid for it, but I've learned to keep certain truths to myself. They eat at the island, not at the table. Melissa scrolls through her phone between bites. Daniel checks emails on his laptop. Words like closing, interest rate, client call float through the air like dust. I sit at the table, alone. I eat the soup. It's not too salty. At 7:12, Melissa looks up. "Oh, Frank, we actually need to talk about something." Need. Not want. Not discuss. Need. I nod, folding my napkin carefully. Linda insisted on linen. Paper was for picnics and funerals. "What is it?" Daniel clears his throat. "We've been reviewing expenses." Of course they have. He pulls out a folder. Gray, tabbed, organized. My son always did like paperwork. "Utilities have gone up," he continues. "Electricity, water, gas. About 18% over the past 6 months." "I see." "And groceries," Melissa adds. "We've noticed increased usage." Increased usage. I think about my breakfast. 1 slice of toast, half an avocado, black coffee. Lunch, can tuna. Dinner, soup. Dangerous indulgence. "We think it's only fair," Daniel says, sliding a printed sheet across the table, "that your monthly contribution be adjusted." I look down. $2,000 becomes $2,850. A neat increase. Clean. Justified in their minds. "You already pay rent." I say quietly. Below market, Melissa corrects immediately. A house like this rents for at least $4,500 a month in this area. A house like this, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, maple floors, granite countertops, a backyard Linda designed herself, with those ridiculous ceramic frogs she loved. Purchased in 2011 for $620,000. Paid off in 2019. With my money. I repeat. Daniel leans forward. We're not trying to make things difficult, Dad. But everything has to be fair. Fair. There's a word that ages poorly. I nod slowly. When does this start? Next month, Melissa says. We've already updated the shared account details. Of course they have. Silence settles over the room. Heavy. Familiar. At 7:25, I stand up, gather the plates. The untouched ones first. For plates go back into the cabinet. Then I wash the dishes. By hand. I never liked dishwashers. Too noisy. Behind me, their conversation resumes. If we refinance now, we could pull another $80,000. Your father's contribution helps offset the risk. We should also look into long-term care options, just in case. Long-term care. I keep my back to them. Water running. Sponge, moving in slow, deliberate circles. At 7:41, I dry my hands and walk to my room. It used to be the study. My study. Now it fits a twin bed, a small desk, and a lamp with a flickering bulb I keep meaning to replace. On the desk sits a folder of my own. Not gray, brown, worn at the edges. Inside, bank statements, property records, copies of transfers, $180,000 for their down payment in 2018, $52,000 for Daniel's MBA, $34,500 for their wedding, monthly transfers, $2,000, then $2,500, now $2,850. I sit down, open it, run my fingers over the numbers. For a long time, I told myself this was normal, that families help each other, that love looks like sacrifice. But lately, the math has started to feel different, colder, more precise. At 8:03, my phone buzzes. Unknown number. I hesitate, then answer. Hello? Mr. Harris, a woman's voice says. Professional. Measured. This is Karen Whitmore from Whitmore and Blake Legal Services. I'm calling regarding a property transfer document dated March 14th. My grip tightens. What about it? There's a pause. I believe, she says carefully. You may not be aware of what was filed under your name. I look at the closed door, at the quiet house that no longer feels like mine. I'm listening, I say, and for the first time in a very long while, I stop feeling tired. If you believe older voices still matter, support this channel with a like and a subscription. Karen Whitmore did not raise her voice. People who deal in expensive mistakes rarely do. Mr. Harris, she repeated slower this time. A document was filed on March 14th, 2024, transferring partial ownership of your property into a family trust. I sat very still, outside my window. The neighbor's sprinkler clicked in steady intervals, tick, pause, tick. Watering a lawn that always looked a little too perfect to be real. A trust. I asked. Yes. The Harris Family Residential Trust. Beneficiaries listed. Daniel Harris and Melissa Harris. Of course. And me? I said. A pause. Papers shifting on her end. You were listed as the original grantor, she said carefully, but not as an active controlling party. That was a polite way of saying I had signed something that removed me from my own house. I closed my eyes for a moment. March 14th. That was the refinancing meeting, I said slowly. At First National. Daniel said it was routine paperwork. There it was. The memory surfaced, sharp and unpleasant. A glass conference room. Bottled water with condensation rings on polished wood. A young man in a suit explaining terms too quickly. Daniel beside me, reassuring, impatient. Just standard adjustments, Dad. We're optimizing the structure. Optimizing. I didn't agree to transfer ownership, I said. You signed the documents, Karen replied, not unkindly. Several of them. Page 6 includes the trust authorization. Page 6. I remembered page 6. Dense paragraphs. Legal language that seemed designed to discourage reading. Can it be reversed? I asked. Another pause. Longer this time. That depends on whether you were fully informed at the time of signing, she said. and whether there was any coercion or misrepresentation. Misrepresentation. I let out a quiet breath. What would you call it? I asked. If your son tells you it's routine paperwork and doesn't mention you're signing away control of your home. I would call that worth examining, she said. There was something steady in her tone. Not sympathy, not quite, but interest. Professional interest. I'd like to review the documents with you, she continued. In person if possible. There may be options. Options. A word I hadn't heard in a while. We agreed on Tuesday, 10:00 a.m. her office downtown. Suite 1402. She gave me the address twice, as if she suspected I might forget. I didn't. When the call ended, the room felt different. Same desk, same flickering lamp, same stack of papers. But the silence had changed. It was no longer empty. It was waiting. The next morning, I woke up at 6:00. Of course I did. Old habits. I made coffee, black, no sugar. Toasted a single slice of bread. Sat by the window and watched the street come to life in small, predictable ways. Mrs. Klein walking her dachshund at 6:20. The mail truck at 6:45. Daniel leaving at 7:10. Briefcase in hand. Phone already pressed to his ear. Yeah, we'll close by Friday, he was saying as he stepped into the car. The old man's contribution is locked in. The old man. I took a sip of coffee. At 7:30, Melissa came down. She wore a cream-colored sweater, the kind that looks effortless, but probably cost more than my first car. Morning, she said, opening the fridge. Good morning. She glanced at the table. One plate this time. Progress. I'll be out most of the day, she said. Meeting with a designer. For what? She hesitated, just a fraction. Upstairs renovation, she said. We're thinking of opening up the space. Maybe expanding the master suite. The master suite. That sounds expensive. She smiled, thin, calculated. We're managing. Of course they were. With your help, she added, almost as an afterthought. I nodded. At 8:15, I went back to my room and opened the brown folder again. This time, I added a new section. I wrote the date at the top of a blank page. April 8th, 2026. Then I began listing everything. Not just the big numbers. Not just the $180,000 or the $52,000 or the monthly transfers. Everything. $4,200. New HVAC system, 2017. $12,800. Kitchen renovation, 2019. $3,600. Property taxes, annual average. Paid by me until 2021. $1,150. Insurance premiums, monthly, auto-withdrawn from my account. Line by line, year by year. It took 3 hours. By the end, my hand ached, and the page looked like something between an audit and a confession. At 11:32, my phone buzzed again. Daniel. I let it ring twice before answering. Dad, he said, voice tight. Did you update the transfer amount for next month? I saw the new figure, I replied. Good. We just need everything aligned before the refinancing closes. Aligned. Yes, I said. Everything should be aligned. He exhaled, relieved. Perfect. That really helps us out. Us. Daniel. I said. Yeah. A pause. Do you remember March 14th? Another pause. Shorter this time. The bank meeting, he said. Sure. What exactly did I sign that day? Silence. Then a small laugh. Too quick. Just standard documents. Dad, we went over this. Did we? Of course. It's all part of the financial structure. Totally normal. Totally normal. I looked down at the paper in front of me, at the numbers, at the years. All right, I said. Why, he asked. Is something wrong? I considered the question. Then I smiled. No, I said. Everything's perfectly clear. We hung up at 12:05. I closed the folder. Carefully. Precisely. For years, I had been giving them money because I believed I was helping my family. Now, for the first time, I understood something else. I wasn't helping. I was financing them. And like any investment, it was time to review the terms. Tuesday came with rain. Not dramatic rain, the kind you notice. Just a steady, gray drizzle that blurred the edges of things. Buildings looked softer. People walked faster. The city smelled faintly of wet concrete and coffee. I left the house at 9:10. No one asked where I was going. Melissa had already gone to her designer meeting. Daniel had left a note on the counter. Don't forget to confirm the transfer. No, Dad. No signature. Just instructions. I folded the note once and slipped it into my pocket. At 9:42, I stepped into Whitmore and Blake Legal Services. Glass doors. Neutral colors. A receptionist who smiled without curiosity. Mr. Harris? Yes. Ms. Whitmore is expecting you. 14th floor. The elevator ride was quiet. Just me and a man in a construction jacket holding a box of donuts. Maple glaze. I could smell them, sweet, warm, unnecessary. I used to bring donuts home on Saturdays. Linda would complain, then eat too. By 10:00, I was sitting across from Karen Whitmore. She was younger than I expected. Early 40s, maybe. Dark hair pulled back, no-nonsense suit. A pen aligned perfectly with the edge of her notebook. Mr. Harris, she said, shaking my hand. Firm grip. Thank you for coming. Thank you for calling. I placed my brown folder on the table. She noticed. Good, she said. Documentation helps. That word again. Helps. She opened her laptop, then a printed copy of the documents I had signed. Tabs. Highlights. Notes in the margins. Someone had been busy. Let's start with March 14th, she said. This is the trust agreement. She slid the paper toward me and pointed. There, your signature. And here, page 6. Page 6. The paragraph looked exactly as I remembered. Dense, polite, and quietly lethal. This clause, she continued, transfers controlling interest of the property into the trust. You remain the grantor, but all decision-making authority shifts to the trustees. Daniel and Melissa, I said. She nodded. They can refinance, sell, or leverage the property without your consent. Without your consent. The phrase landed softly, like something that had already happened. Is that legal? I asked. It is, if the signer understood what they were agreeing to. And if he didn't, she leaned back slightly. Then we look at misrepresentation, possibly undue influence, especially given your age and the family relationship. Age, family, influence, words that sound clinical until they describe your own life. I opened my folder and slid the first page toward her. A list of numbers. She scanned it. Her eyebrows lifted just slightly. You've been very generous, she said. That's one way to put it. She flipped through the pages. Slowly, methodically. The room was quiet except for the soft turning of paper. At 10:18, she stopped. This, she said, tapping the page, is significant. $180,000 down payment. $52,000 MBA. $34,500 wedding. Ongoing monthly transfers. And this is all from your accounts? She asked. Yes. Not loans? No. Any written agreements? I shook my head. Family doesn't sign contracts, I said. She gave me a look. No, she said, but they should. A pause. Then she closed the folder. Mr. Harris, she said, her tone shifting. More direct now, less careful. What I'm about to say is important. I nodded. I believe you've been systematically misled and financially exploited. The word hung there. Exploited. Clean. Precise. Final. I didn't react immediately. Instead, I thought about the table. For plates becoming two. About contributions becoming obligations. About my son calling me the old man while discussing my money like a line item. Yes, I said quietly. That sounds about right. She continued. We can challenge the trust. File for rescission based on misrepresentation. Possibly freeze any pending refinancing. Freeze, I repeated. Yes. Prevent them from accessing additional funds tied to the property. I thought about Daniel's phone call. We just need everything aligned before the refinancing closes. When is the refinancing scheduled? She asked. Friday, I said. She didn't hesitate. Then we moved quickly. She pulled out a form. Another one. Legal language. But this time she explained every line. Carefully. Deliberately. As if making up for someone else's silence. By 10:47, I had signed again. But this time, I understood every word. At 11:05, I stepped back out into the rain. It hadn't stopped. Of course it hadn't. I stood under the awning for a moment, watching people hurry past. Heads down, phones out, lives in motion. For years, I had been standing still, waiting, giving, adjusting, telling myself that patience was the same as love. It isn't. At 11:12, my phone buzzed. Daniel, I answered. Dad, quick question. he said. Did you confirm the updated transfer? The bank's asking for final numbers. I looked up at the gray sky. Water ran along the edge of the sidewalk in thin, determined streams. Yes, I said. I confirmed everything. Relief flooded his voice. Great. That's perfect. You're really helping us out here. Helping. I almost laughed. Daniel, I said. Yeah. Another pause. Friday, I said, is going to be an important day. Of course it is, he replied. Big closing. Yes, I said. Something like that. We hung up. At 11:20, I stepped into the rain. No umbrella. No rush. Just a quiet, steady walk back to a house that for the moment still had my name attached to it. But not for long. One way or another. I got home at 12:03. The house was quiet in that artificial way it gets when no one is actually living in it. Just passing through. Like a hotel with better furniture. Melissa's shoes were gone from the hallway. Daniel's office door was closed, though I knew he wasn't inside. He never worked from home on Tuesdays. Too many distractions, he once said, glancing in my direction, as if I were a flickering television he couldn't turn off. I hung my coat, carefully, same hook as always. Then I went into the kitchen. The note was still there. Don't forget to confirm the transfer. I unfolded it again, smoothed the crease with my thumb, and placed it on the table, right where I used to set 4 plates. For a moment, I just stood there, listening. The refrigerator hummed. The clock ticked. Somewhere outside, a dog barked twice and then lost interest. Ordinary sounds, harmless, but underneath them, something else had settled into the house. Expectation. At 12:20, I made lunch. 2 eggs, scrambled, a slice of toast, black pepper, no salt this time. Melissa would have approved, though she wasn't here to see it. I ate slowly, not because I was savoring it, because I was thinking. Karen's words repeated in my mind, not loudly, not dramatically, just steady, like a metronome. We can freeze the refinancing. We can challenge the trust. We move quickly, quickly. For years, everything in my life had been slow, gradual, almost invisible. The extra payment here, the small concession there, a signature, another, a temporary adjustment that never quite returned to normal. You don't notice the slope when it's gentle, only when you try to climb back up. At 1:05, I went to my room and took out the folder again. Brown, worn, honest. I added a new section, legal. Under it I wrote, March 14th. Trust signed under misrepresentation. April 12th. Legal consultation with Whitmore and Blake. April 12th. Action initiated to freeze refinancing. I paused, then added one more line. Evidence. Pattern of financial dependency and control. I underlined that last word, control, at 1:40. The front door opened. Melissa, her voice floated in before she did. Oh my God, it's going to look incredible, she was saying into her phone. We're thinking of knocking down that wall and expanding the suite, maybe even a walk-in closet, like a proper one. She stepped into the kitchen, still talking, still smiling. Then she saw me. The smile adjusted, not disappeared, just resized. I'll call you back, she said into the phone. Yeah, bye. She set her bag on the counter. Leather, structured, probably new. You're home early, she said. I had an appointment. What kind of appointment? The question came quickly, too quickly for casual curiosity. Legal, I said. A small pause. Barely there. Oh, she said. Everything okay? I looked at her. Really looked. Perfect hair. Perfect posture. Perfect concern applied like makeup. Thin enough to be convincing, thick enough to hide what was underneath. Yes, I said. Everything is becoming very clear. She frowned slightly. I'm not sure what that means. I didn't expect you would. Another pause. This one longer. Well, she said, turning toward the fridge. As long as you're okay. She opened the door, scanned the contents, then closed it again without taking anything. A habit, not hunger evaluation. At 2:15, Daniel called. Not me. Her. I could hear his voice faintly from the kitchen while I sat in my room. The door half closed. Bank confirmed for Friday. We just need Dad's transfer to hit. After that, we're clear. Clear. The word echoed. At 2:22, Melissa knocked lightly on my door. Frank. Yes. She stepped in, arms crossed loosely. Daniel wanted me to check. Did you finalize the transfer details? I closed my folder. Yes. All set. All set. She nodded, satisfied. Good, she said. This refinance is really important for us. For us. Of course it is, I replied. She lingered for a second. Then, you know, she added, we're doing all of this for the future. For the family. The family. I almost asked which one. Instead, I just nodded. I understand. She smiled again. That same measured smile. I knew you would. When she left, I sat there for a long time. Not moving. Not thinking in any dramatic way. Just aligning things. Memories with numbers. Words with actions. Promises with outcomes. By 4:00, the rain had stopped. Sunlight pushed through the clouds in thin, pale strips, catching on the window glass and reflecting across the floor. The house looked warmer in that light. Almost honest. At 4:12, my phone buzzed. Karen, it's done, she said. What is? We filed a motion. The bank has been notified. The refinancing is officially under review. I let that settle. Meaning, she said. Nothing moves forward on that property until this is resolved. Nothing moves. For the first time in years, something had stopped. Not slowed, not adjusted. Stopped. Thank you, I said. You're welcome. Be prepared, though. For what? For them to notice. I looked toward the kitchen, toward the empty counter, toward the place where the note still lay. They will, I said. Yes, she replied. And when they do, it won't be quiet. I ended the call. At 4:30, I went back to the kitchen. I picked up the note one last time. Don't forget to confirm the transfer. I folded it neatly. Then I placed it back on the table, right in the center, where everyone could see it. And for the first time in a very long while, I didn't set the table for dinner. They noticed at 6:12 p.m. Not immediately. That would have required attention, awareness. No, first came routine. Garage door, footsteps, the soft electronic chirp of Daniel's car locking behind him. Then Melissa's voice. Did you confirm with the bank? I told you everything's aligned, Daniel replied, loosening his tie as he stepped into the kitchen. A pause. Then, what's this? I was already sitting at the table. No plates this time. Just me. And the note. Melissa picked it up, read it, frowned. You left this out, she asked. I thought it was important, I said. Daniel glanced at me, distracted. Did you make the transfer, he asked, skipping everything else. Yes. He exhaled, relieved. Good. Because the bank. His phone buzzed. He checked it mid-sentence and stopped completely. You can always tell when bad news arrives. It doesn't shout. It removes something. Air, color, certainty. What? Melissa asked. He didn't answer. Just stared at the screen. Then read it again. Daniel, she pressed. His voice, when it came, was different. Flat. They've put a hold on the refinancing. Silence. Melissa blinked. What do you mean, a hold? I mean, he said slowly, still looking at the phone. Legal review. Effective immediately. No disbursement. No restructuring. Nothing moves. Nothing moves. She turned toward me. Sharp now. Focused. What did you do? There it was. No confusion. No hesitation. Just accusation. I folded my hands on the table. I spoke to a lawyer. Daniel looked up. Finally. What? Yesterday, I said. After reviewing the documents from March 14th, his expression shifted. Not to guilt. To calculation. Dad, he said carefully. We went over those documents together. No, I replied. You went over them. I signed them. That's the same thing. It isn't. Melissa stepped closer. Her heels clicked again. Faster this time, less controlled. You're jeopardizing a major financial decision, she said. Do you understand that? Yes. And you did this without talking to us? I let that hang for a moment. Then, you didn't talk to me when you transferred control of my house. It's not your house, she snapped. The room went very still. Even she seemed to hear it after it left her mouth. Daniel shot her a look, but it was too late. I nodded once. Thank you, I said quietly. That clarifies things. Frank, she said, adjusting her tone, that's not what I meant. It is exactly what you meant. Daniel stepped in. Let's not escalate this, he said. We can fix it. Whatever your lawyer told you, we'll straighten it out. Will we? Yes, he said firmly. We just need you to withdraw whatever complaint was filed. Complaint. Such a small word for such a large thing. And if I don't? He hesitated. Just a fraction. Then, then we all lose. I almost smiled. No mention of me. Only we. What exactly do you lose, Daniel? I asked. He ran a hand through his hair. The refinance. Liquidity. The ability to move forward. And the house? I asked. A pause. It's tied into the structure, he said. You know that? Yes, I said. I'm starting to. Melissa crossed her arms. This is irrational, she said. You're acting out of emotion. No, I replied. I've been acting out of emotion for years. And now, I looked at her. Now I'm acting out of math. That landed. You could see it. Numbers don't argue. They don't soften. They don't pretend. They just add up. Daniel pulled out a chair and sat down across from me, for the first time in months, at the table. Okay, he said. Let's be practical. What do you want? There it was. Not are you okay? Not did we hurt you? Just terms. I want, I said slowly, full review and reversal of a trust. Melissa laughed. A short, sharp sound. That's not happening. Daniel didn't laugh. He just watched me. That's complicated, he said. No, I replied. It's actually very simple. I leaned forward slightly. My name goes back on my house. My control is restored. And the financial arrangement between us ends. Ends, Melissa repeated. Yes. You live here, she said. You contribute. I paid for this house, I said. You helped, she corrected. The word hung there. Helped. I felt something shift inside me. Not anger. Something colder. $180,000, I said. Down payment. Daniel didn't respond. $52,000, I continued. Your MBA. Silence. $34,500. Your wedding. Melissa looked away. Monthly transfers. Years of them. I tapped the table once. Lightly. This is not help, I said. This is ownership. Daniel's jaw tightened. That's not how it works legally. Maybe not, I said, but it's how it works in reality. A long pause. Then he stood up. Fine, he said. If you want to make this legal, we'll make it legal. Melissa nodded immediately. Yes, let's. Of course they would. That was their language. Contracts, structures, control. Good, I said. I stood as well. My knees protested, but I ignored them. Then we understand each other. Daniel looked at me. Really looked this time. Not as an obligation. Not as a line item. As an obstacle. You're making a mistake, he said. I shook my head. No, I replied. I made a mistake a long time ago. I picked up the note from the table, folded it once more, and slipped it into my pocket. Now, I added, I'm correcting it. No one spoke, not as I walked past them, not as I turned off the kitchen light, not even as I closed the door to my room. But in the silence they left behind, something had finally unmistakably begun to break. Friday arrived without ceremony. No thunder. No dramatic sunrise. Just a pale, indifferent morning and a calendar date that, until recently, had meant nothing to me. Now it meant everything. I woke up at 5:58 a.m., 2 minutes before the alarm I no longer needed. For a while, I lay still, staring at the ceiling. There's a particular kind of clarity that comes before something irreversible, sharp, almost clean. No noise, no doubt, just a quiet understanding that whatever happens next will not be undone. By 6:30, I was in the kitchen. I set the table. 4 plates, not out of habit this time. Deliberately, the same white porcelain, the same gold rim. I aligned them carefully, adjusting each one until the spacing felt right. Knife to the right, fork to the left, glass above. Linda used to say, a properly set table was a form of respect. I suppose I wanted witnesses. At 7:05, Daniel came down. He stopped when he saw the table. What is this? He asked. Breakfast, I said. Melissa followed a minute later. She didn't speak at first, just looked from the plates to me, then back again. We don't have time for this, she said finally. We have a call with the bank at 9. You'll have time, I replied. Sit. It wasn't a request. Daniel hesitated. Then, to my mild surprise, he pulled out a chair and sat down. Melissa followed, slower, cautious. Good. I served eggs, toast, coffee, simple things. No quinoa, no delivery. For a few minutes, we ate in silence. It felt almost normal, which made what came next cleaner. At 7:18, the doorbell rang. Melissa frowned. Are you expecting someone? Yes, I said. Daniel looked up. Who? I stood, walked to the door, and opened it. Two people stood outside. Karen Whitmore and a man in a dark suit holding a leather folder. Good morning, Mr. Harris, Karen said. Right on time, I replied. We stepped inside. Melissa stood immediately. What is this? She demanded. Daniel didn't stand. He already knew, or at least suspected. Ms. Whitmore, he said slowly, I assume this is about the filing. It is, she replied calmly. And about what comes next? The man beside her stepped forward. Thomas Reed, he said, court-appointed representative. I'm here to deliver formal notice regarding the property dispute and immediate injunction. He opened the folder. Papers slid out. Crisp. Official. Effective as of 8:00 a.m. today, he continued. All financial actions related to the property at 214 Maple Ridge Drive frozen pending judicial review. Melissa let out a short, disbelieving laugh. You can't be serious. I'm afraid I am, he said. Daniel stood now. Slow. And what exactly does that mean, he asked. Karen answered. It means, she said, the refinancing is canceled. Any attempt to leverage the property is suspended. And most importantly, control of the property is under legal review. Daniel's eyes flicked to me. You did this? Yes. Melissa stepped forward, voice rising. This is insane. You're blowing up our finances over a misunderstanding. No, I said. I'm correcting one. Thomas handed Daniel the documents. Additionally, he said, there is a petition to reverse the trust based on misrepresentation and undue influence. Melissa grabbed the papers from Daniel's hands, scanning them quickly. This is ridiculous, she snapped. He signed everything. Yes, Karen said. He did, under incomplete disclosure. That's not illegal. It can be, Karen replied, when combined with demonstrable financial dependency and pattern of control. Melissa turned to me. You went behind our backs, she said. I considered that. Then, you went to my front door. Silence. Absolute. Daniel exhaled slowly. Okay, he said. Let's stay rational. He turned to Karen. What's the end game here? Restoration of Mr. Harris's full ownership rights, she said, and termination of the current financial arrangement. Melissa shook her head. No, absolutely not. Daniel didn't interrupt her this time. Interesting. This house, she continued, is part of our financial structure, our future. I looked at her. No, I said. It was part of mine. Another silence. Then Thomas spoke again. There's one more item, he said. He reached into the folder and pulled out a second document. A temporary residency notice, he said, pending the outcome of the case. Occupancy terms are under review. Daniel's expression sharpened. What does that mean? It means, Thomas said, the court may reassess who has the right to reside on the property during proceedings. Melissa went pale. You're trying to throw us out, she said to me. I met her eyes. No, I said, I'm letting the law decide, which in this case was worse. At 7:42, the kitchen looked different. Same table, same plates, but the balance had shifted. No longer 2 against 1. Now something else entirely. Daniel set the papers down carefully. All right, he said, if this is how you want to play it, fine. He looked at me, cold, focused, no pretense left. We'll see this through. I expect you will, I said. Melissa didn't sit back down. She just stood there, arms wrapped around herself, as if the room had suddenly grown colder. Karen closed her folder. We'll be in touch regarding next steps, she said. Then to me, you did the right thing. I didn't answer. Not because I disagreed. Because right had very little to do with it anymore. After they left, the house felt quiet again. But it wasn't the same quiet. This one had edges. At 7:55, Daniel checked his watch. 8 o'clock, he said. Right on schedule. For once, something had happened exactly when it was supposed to. He looked at the table, at the 4 plates, then back at me. You planned this, he said. Yes. A long pause. Then he gave a small, humorless nod. Of course you did. I sat down, picked up my coffee. It was still warm. I said. Neither of them moved. I took a slow sip, and for the first time in years, I wasn't the one being managed. The house began to shrink after that morning. Not physically. The walls didn't move, the ceilings didn't lower. But something in the space tightened. Conversations became shorter. Doors closed faster. Even the air felt allocated. By Monday, we were no longer pretending. Daniel worked from home more often, not because he wanted to, but because control prefers proximity. His office door stayed half open, as if he expected movement, intrusion, weakness. Melissa stopped mentioning renovations. The walk-in closet disappeared from her vocabulary overnight. Like a canceled dream, she refused to acknowledge. At 9:15 a.m., I received the first official update. Karen's voice calm as ever. The court has scheduled a preliminary hearing. Thursday, 10:30 a.m. Will they be there? I asked. Yes, she said. And they've retained counsel. Of course they had. Daniel never entered a fight without representation. Good, I said. Are you prepared? She asked. I looked at the brown folder on my desk. Now thicker, organized, precise. Yes, I replied. I am. Thursday came with sunlight. Clear, unforgiving. The kind that exposes everything. Dust on shelves, cracks in paint. Details you'd rather ignore. We arrived separately. I took a cab at 9:40. Daniel and Melissa were already there when I entered the building. Glass, steel, polished floors that reflected too much. They stood near the elevators with their lawyer. Tall man, expensive suit, the kind of confidence that comes from billing by the hour. Melissa saw me first. Her expression didn't change. That was new. Daniel nodded once. A gesture, not warmth. Dad. Daniel? We didn't shake hands. Inside the courtroom, everything was smaller than I expected. Not dramatic, not theatrical. Just rows of seats, a raised bench, and the quiet hum of people pretending this was routine. At 10:32, the judge entered, mid-50s. Tired eyes, efficient movements, no interest in emotion. Good. Karen sat beside me, her notes already arranged. Just answer clearly, she said quietly. No speeches. I don't give speeches, I replied. She almost smiled. Daniel's lawyer spoke first. Predictable. Your Honor, this is a straightforward case of a legally executed trust agreement. Mr. Harris voluntarily signed all relevant documents. There's no evidence of coercion. Karen stood. There is evidence of systematic misrepresentation, she said, and a clear pattern of financial dependency created and exploited over time. Words, sharp ones, placed carefully. Then came the documents. Mine. Numbers laid out not as generosity, but as structure. $180,000, $52,000, $34,500. Monthly transfers. Year after year. The judge leaned forward slightly. Mr. Harris, she said, looking at me. Did you understand that you were transferring control of your property? No, I said. Were the terms explained to you in full? No. Who presented the documents? I didn't look at Daniel. My son, I said. A pause. Small. But it landed. Daniel's lawyer shifted. Your Honor, with respect, misunderstanding does not invalidate a signed agreement. It can, the judge interrupted, if the misunderstanding was induced. Silence. Clean. Precise. Then she turned to Daniel. Mr. Harris, she said, did you explicitly explain the transfer of control to your father? Daniel hesitated. Just once. Yes, he said. We discussed the structure. Did you use the term transfer of control? Another pause. No, he admitted. Melissa closed her eyes briefly. There it was. Not dramatic. Not explosive. Just enough. By 11:18, the hearing was over. No final decision, but the direction was clear. The trust will remain suspended pending full review, the judge said. Temporary control of the property is reinstated to Mr. Harris. Reinstated. A word with weight. Additionally, she continued, occupancy terms are to be renegotiated under supervision. Melissa's composure cracked then. Your Honor, this is not a discussion, the judge said. It is a ruling. Gavel, soft, final. Outside the courtroom, the air felt different, lighter. Not because something had ended, because something had shifted. Daniel stepped toward me. No hard feelings, he said. I looked at him, really looked. My son, my investment, my mistake. There are feelings, I said. They're just not negotiable anymore. Melissa didn't speak. She stood a step behind him, arms crossed, eyes sharp, calculating damage. Their lawyer was already talking. Next steps, strategy, options. Always options. I turned to Karen. What happens now? I asked. Now, she said, they adjust. And if they don't? She held my gaze. Then they leave. Simple. Clean. I nodded. That evening, I got home at 5:40. The house was quiet. Of course it was, but not empty. Not anymore. I walked into the kitchen, set one plate on the table. Just one. Not out of habit. Out of accuracy. At 6:12, the garage door opened. Footsteps followed. Slower this time. Measured. Daniel entered first. Melissa, behind him. They stopped when they saw the table. One plate. One chair. One place. Daniel looked at me. Then at the table. Then back again. You've made your point, he said. I shook my head. No, I replied. I've corrected the math. Silence. Heavy. Final. I picked up my fork. Took a bite. And for the first time since Linda died, the house felt like it knew who it belonged to. Stories like this happen more often than we think. By the way, where are you watching from? Drop your city or state below. And if you want more stories like this, subscribe to the channel.